I'm John Montgomery, and I'm here with Reagan Aikins to share some information with you about some new rules from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission that would change the settlement period for broker-dealer trades from 3 days from the trading date, commonly known as T+3, to 2 days from the trading date, T+2. Reagan, thanks for being a part of the discussion today.
It's my pleasure to be here with you today, John.
So let's talk about changes in the rules and how they relate to employment tax withholdings and deposits on equity compensation. Proper withholding and remitting of employment taxes for regular compensation is a significant administrative challenge for many companies, not to mention the added complexities that are generated by equity awards.
I agree, John. Why don't we begin with a little bit of background? Not many people know that it's the SEC, not the IRS, that's the governing body that mandates the amount of time brokers have to deliver shares or cash to employee plan participants. This is known as the settlement period. For many years, the settlement period has been trade day plus 3 days. The broker handling the deal has 3 days plus the trade day to deliver the cash or shares to the employee, and then the employer must withhold and remit the proper employment taxes. The IRS borrowed the T+3 concept from the SEC related to withholding taxes using a T+4 concept. So the broker has 4 days to deliver the shares or cash to the employer, so the employer can then withhold and remit the appropriate employment taxes and deposit them in a timely manner. What complicates the situation is that the IRS generally expects employers that have a payroll tax liability in excess of $100,000 to remit those taxes, including FIT, FICA, and Medicare, on the next day. However, the IRS has informally suggested that agents need not challenge the timeliness of deposits so long as employers deposit the next day after the T+3 rules have been met by the broker.
What about non-compliance? What has been the approach to that?
Well, John, the IRS has successfully assessed interest and penalties on employers' failure to withhold and remit timely on equity compensation. We anticipate increased enforcement with the new rules that have been in place since September 5th, 2017.
So what are the new rules?
Earlier this year, the SEC proposed a rule change in the length of time the brokers have to deliver the shares to the employee plan participants. This is called the settlement period. As I noted earlier, the previous SEC rule was a T+3. In March, the SEC proposed a T+2 time frame for brokers to deliver the shares. This was put in effect on September 5th, 2017. You can see on your screen which types of securities the rule applies to.
How will the new rules affect companies?
Under the new rules, the employer's settlement period will be reduced by 1 day, which could accelerate the next day deposit rules should the payroll tax liabilities exceed $100,000. This will result in employers having to receive the information from the brokers and deposit the taxes 1 day quicker than under the previous rules. Employers may need to revise their policies and procedures in order to come into compliance with the change in the time frame from T+3 to T+2.
I see. So why is this important to companies?
Well, as you noted earlier, John, many companies cite an administrative burden as it relates to equity compensation withholding requirements. Reducing the amount of time that employers and companies have to make timely deposits on the equity compensation will only increase their administrative burden. Depending on the amount of payroll tax liability associated with the equity compensation, employers who are not in compliance could be faced with large interest and penalties assessed by the IRS.
That is very important to bear in mind, absolutely. So what should companies be thinking about on this topic?
Companies might wish to consider changing their policies and procedures in order to come into compliance with the T+2 settlement period. Companies should also think about speaking with their service providers on the broker side to discuss how the brokers are handling this change.
Okay, so just to recap, under the previous rules T+3, if you sold shares of Acme on a Monday, the transaction would settle on a Thursday. Now under the new T+2 rules, if you sold shares of Acme on a Monday, the transaction would settle on a Wednesday. So investors will receive their funds 1 day prior under the new rules. Also, as a result, the employer's settlement period could be reduced by 1 day, which could accelerate their deposit requirements if the liability exceeds $100,000. This could require employers to update and change their processes and procedures. In addition, penalties and interest could be attracted. Did I get that right?
Yes, that encapsulates it nicely. For additional information and assistance, companies should be reaching out to their qualified tax professionals. Additionally, they can visit the SEC website and review the updated investor bulletin, which was posted in August 2017.
Thank you, Reagan, for your insights on this topic.
It was a pleasure to be here with you, John. Thank you.